I hope that you sorry, off to a good start. Hello everyone, how are you doing? I hope that you're doing so very well. Today I'm here to do, for the first time ever, an early wrap up. Amazing, I know, I'm getting it up before like the 10th of the month. I'm impressed with myself. So let's jump right into the books, shall we? This month I read 7 books, which isn't terrible, isn't great, just about in the middle, and I'm pretty happy with that. The first book that I read, or rather finished, was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I had not finished this whenever you were watching my last wrap up, and now I have. It's still great. Still 5 out of 5 stars. I did get this pretty new hardcover edition. Now they all match and my shelf is very happy. The second book I read this month was Rumble by Ellen Hopkins. This was the Booksplosion book of the month, so that's why I was reading it. And it was alright. It definitely wasn't my favorite just because of the subject matter and just how they presented a lot of things and how the story actually progressed. I know the blurbs don't necessarily have to be exactly what's in the book or anything like what's in the book, but they were trying to like market this really big thing that happened, and that thing barely happened, and it happened at the end of the book, so he wasn't dealing with it the entire book. Also, religion was portrayed in a really, really negative light, which, I mean, there are people that are like that in the world. And I'm so sad that there are people like that. It's honestly a lot of the majority, but it didn't really present both sides. It just presented a negative side. Also, it just presented religious people. Matt, the main character, really didn't go through any sort of religious thinking, even though that's what it was marketed as. There was just really awful people that used religion to hurt him and his family, and he talks about that a little bit, but he doesn't try to deal with religion at all. He maintains his stance that there is no God throughout the entire book. Originally, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, but then it went down to a 3 of 5 stars whenever I was thinking about it, because I really didn't enjoy it that much. I did, however, enjoy Ellen Hopkins' writing style. This prose stuff, it took a little bit to get used to, but I really liked that style of writing, so maybe I will check out some other things by her someday. The third book I read this month was Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, and this was for the XOXO Gone Girl read-along that Liz at Liz Loves Literature and Max at Well Done Books are hosting, and I loved this book. It was so insane. Like, people tell you it's crazy and that there's like crazy things that happened. They are correct. It is insane, and that's what made it so good. And the characters that she writes are so flawed. Like, nobody is really perfect. And let's be real, in most literature, there are characters that are like slightly flawed, but they're still overall pretty perfect. These are like the most screwed up, flawed characters I've ever read, and like all of them are. Everyone is terrible and crazy, and it's just like, what? I'm really excited how this is gonna translate to film, because some things I'm like, how are they gonna do that? But I think it will be great. This book got a 5 out of 5 stars for me, no surprise there. The fourth book I read this month was A Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. I read this with Katie from Vincent Van Stop, and I loved this book. It was so sad, but it was so good. I bawled my way through, but I made it. I just love Morgan Matson's ability to write contemporaries and love stories, but with serious themes intertwined in the middle of it. And it's really more like everyday life. Like, you don't just have perfect happy times. There are sad times that are mixed in with the really perfect happy times. If you want to read this book, just have some tissues at hand. If you don't know, it's about a family that goes back to their lake house for one last summer because their dad has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. The main girl in this is Taylor, and she also has to deal with loose ends that she left at the lake house 5 years ago, a boy, a friend, etc, etc, etc. I really liked Taylor a lot. She kind of frustrated me sometimes. She basically like runs away from everything, and that's how a lot of people approach life. They don't deal with conflict at all, they just run away. And so it was frustrating, but it was realistic, so I liked that. 5 out of 5 stars. The fifth book I read this month was The Infinite Sea by Rick Yancey. To be honest, this book was a disappointment to me. Not only is it massively shorter than its predecessor by a few hundred pages, it was just so unfocused. The story just went everywhere, and they didn't really get anything accomplished, and you didn't really find anything out until like the very end of the book when it finally gained some focus. Also, the perspectives were kind of weird because you didn't know who was talking. The book starts out with a totally new perspective and you're like, who is this? I have no idea, and you don't find out till like the second page. I feel like there's maybe something bigger at play but it just felt like this book was rushed, especially with the movie and stuff coming out. I'm sure they were pressuring Rick Yancey to get the next book out. He should have just taken some more time and fleshed this book out a little bit more. I'll maybe continue on with the series, but I'm a little bit reluctant at this point. So this got a 3.5 out of 5 stars for me. The 6th book that I read this month was The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery by Gabrielle Zevin. I picked it up at the recommendation of Max at Well Done Books and Jenny at Jellify. It was just such an awesome story. There's love, there's loss, there's all the things in between, and it's about a bookseller and just kind of his life, so you kind of relate to the bookseller's things and some of the things that he talks about. I wasn't expecting things to happen that did happen in the book, especially like the main plot point of the book. I was not expecting that to happen, but it surprised me with how good it was. I mean, I expected it to be good with my friend's recommendations, but I was still surprised at how great it was. This book got a 5 out of 5 stars from me. The last book that I read this month, and am kind of currently still reading, is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. I had a couple other things on my TBR for this month, but I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna read Crown of Midnight because I want to. Come at me, bro. With everybody talking to me about Heir of Fire and about what happens, I was like, I just want to reread Heir of Fire, so I was like, gotta pick up Crown of Midnight again, so I did. I'm still currently reading it. I'm gonna take a little bit more time with it so that I can make it last till the end of the month, because when October 1st starts, things get real. Crown of Midnight, still great, still a 5 out of 5 stars. It hasn't done anything to make me rate it differently than I did before, so. And that was all the books that I read in the month of September. Now let's get on to the October TBR. So excited. The first couple of books that I'm reading this month, I am going to lump all together because it is all of the Heroes of Olympus series so far. So that is The Lost Hero, The Son of Neptune, The Mark of Athena, and The House of Hades. Apparently I'm making it my thing to read all the books in the series preceding the last book's release date. So Blood of Olympus is coming out on October 7th, and obviously I am reading that as well. So these will be my first 5 books of the month. If you want to join me and do something crazy, you can do that. I'm using the hashtag Heroes of October. I'm gonna start on October 1st, and I'm gonna hopefully finish by October 7th so that I can read Blood of Olympus as soon as I can get my hands on it. I mean, if I read all of the Mortal Instruments series before City of Heavenly Fire came out, I'm pretty sure that I can do this. The next book that I want to read this month, besides anything in the Heroes of Olympus series, is Ignite by Lily Paradis. I was actually sent this book for review, and she signed it and kissed it right there. I have heard nothing but good things about this book, and so I'm really excited to read it and to review it, so I'll be looking for that. Look at this cover, it's so pretty. That was another thing that I was like, should I do this? And I saw the cover and I was like, yes, I should do this. It's a romance, so romancing it up. There's also some tragedy that happens in the girl's life before she meets the guy. So I'm really interested to see what this book is about, how the romance is translated. Just really excited all together. The next book that I'm going to read is 172 Hours on the Moon, and I am reading this with Katie from Vincent Van Stop and Dylan from Dylan Books. We're trying to read some scary books this month, and this is scary. That's what I've heard. It's intense, it's crazy, and I'm so excited to read it with friends. Also excited that I'm reading a scary book with friends because I don't know if I would be able to handle it on my own. Basically, these kids go to the moon, and there's something scary there, and they gotta fight it, or run from it, or whatever. I just know it's moon and something scary, and there's 172 hours. Good at explanations, as always. The next book that I'm going to be reading, also with Katie from Vincent Van Stop, is The Gates by John Connolly. It's about a boy named Samuel and his next door neighbors are trying to open up a gate to hell. That's essentially all I know about it, and I also know that its cover is beautiful. The last book that I'm going to read this month is the Booksplosion book of the month, which has not been revealed yet. So when it is, I'll put an annotation of what it is here, but I'm really excited about it, guys. I'm real excited. Maybe I'll be able to read more this month, maybe I won't, I don't know. My sister Kathleen is coming to visit for a week, so obviously I'm not really gonna be spending that week reading because I want to spend time with my sister. Let me know down below what you read this month and what you're planning on reading next month, or if you're planning on reading any scary books, or how excited you are for Blood of Olympus, because my excitement is being contained right now, but it will be unleashed on the Twitters, believe you me. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope that you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye! month of August. September, it's not August.